Hello, my name's Alan Foom, and today I'm going to talk about infrastructure-led exploration, why ILX adds a lot of value. So two pictures on the title slide. Here's a picture of a production profile with the main field and satellites, which take up spare production capacity and add a lot of value. And here's a picture of the Armada platform in the North Sea with satellites that have been tied into it. Again, an example, something I personally worked on. So what is ILX and why is it important? So infrastructure-led exploration is exploration for oil and gas in areas adjacent to existing production facilities. It takes place in mature basins. So it's got a lot of benefits, lower cost through synergies, prolonging the life of existing fields, faster time to production than greenfield sites, and maybe lower geological risk, although that's not always the case in remote areas. So it's great, keeps adding value, and keeps going. But it's not without its challenges. There's got to be compatibility in fluids within processing facilities. You may need to modify the platform. Again, that may take time, that may take costs, and there might be commercial issues with joint venture partnerships, tariffs, etc., that need to be overcome. But these are challenges that need to be overcome. So here's an example from Eddie Ong. Now, Eddie posts quite a lot of interesting stuff on LinkedIn, and he posted a worldwide survey of ILX opportunities. And this is a slide from his slide deck. So please check out Eddie Ong. And this is looking at the Troll field. Troll field is the biggest field in Norway. Its production platform is one of the biggest structures ever made by humanity. And these are potential satellites around Troll, which can be tied back into Troll to keep Troll going longer. Again, you're drawing circles around platforms and you're looking at what can be brought in. So this is a way of describing what's been going on potentially in that area. So why is ILX advantageous? Well, you've got more rapid development than total greenfield exploration. You've got shorter cycle times, typically higher rates of internal rates of return, IRRs, because again, you do things faster, you do things potentially cheaper. Typically less project execution risk, although the execution risk still takes place. You've got some basin knowledge, you have an understanding of the technical challenges, you may have development synergies, but exploration risk is still there. And there's some technical risk that needs to be managed as well. And you will have OPEX synergies, operating expenditure synergies with existing facilities. But volumes tend to be smaller than greenfield projects, so if you're somebody for whom volumes are important, that may not be the right thing for you. But you're here to add value, and this adds a lot of value. So it's a volume versus value thing. You're here to add value, and different companies add value in different ways. Some companies add value by going out for big things. Some companies add value by adding infrastructure-led opportunities to things that already exist. Room for both types of company. So different types of ILX development opportunities. I'm going to talk mainly about marine because that's the world I understand best. But on land, you can have a single well that's tied back via pipeline. You can have a multi-well pad with multiple wells from a single development cluster, again tied back to the pipeline network. Quite often, this is how most development within the shale oil and gas space in the United States takes place, for example. Going offshore, this is something I worked on myself. So this is the Elgin field in the North Sea. This is the Glenelg satellite. So what we did there was we drilled an exploration well on Glenelg to confirm that it has commercial hydrocarbons, and then developed it using extended reach well from the Elgin platform. Again, quite a challenging well to drill, but we managed to do it. And this is Glenelg is now producing via the Elgin facilities. You can develop things offshore via not normally manned platforms. This is an example here, from I believe the North Sea. No people normally working on there. There will be obviously maintenance crews that come there to fix specific things. On a monopod, this one has, I don't know, 3 or 4 wells off it. And obviously, when you need to do intervention operations, you will need to hire a rig and place a rig over the top of it. Or you can have a subsea tieback well. So again, this is an example of a single well, or a subsea cluster, or satellite platforms. For example, this is Erskine and this is Lomond in the North Sea. Again, both feed into existing infrastructure, but Erskine's quite a lot smaller than Lomond, which feeds into Everest. So minimum volumes, again, you're talking about relatively small volumes here. You're talking between 2 and 60 million barrels of oil equivalent, but you're not going to develop things that are this small in greenfield site. Greenfield, you're talking more about this sort of volume. But these projects can take much shorter time. 1 to 4 years, whereas a new greenfield can take 3 to 12 years to develop. Again, adding value by doing things faster. This is an example hosting satellites from the UK. Again, this is an area I've worked on. This was at the time operated by ConocoPhillips. It's now operated by Harbour Energy, a different company, to whom ConocoPhillips sold the UK assets a few years back. So these are the two initial main fields, Judy and Joanne, which were discovered in the 1980s, and the host facility was installed in 1996. And this is a picture of the Judy platform. I remember going up to Newcastle to see it being built, and it was a bright sunny day, and let me put it like this, the shadow reached Jarrow. This thing was massive. And you don't have a context of how big these things are until you actually see them being built. This is the Jade platform, which was installed in 2002. So this is a Jade field, a separate field located up here. Joanne was developed by Subsea Manifold. So this is, again, a facility for 10 wells, which is developed, which is put together subsea, because that was the vogue at the time. Joanne's a separate field. It's a chalk field with also Paleocene reservoir. And the went up to Middlesbrough to see that being built, and the manifold there was basically the size of about 3 or 4 buses parked together, 4 buses parked together. And then you got Jasmine, which is a field which is discovered relatively late. The facilities for that were installed in 2012, and that keeps Judy and Joanne going. Again, exports via Norpipe, so again, tied into existing infrastructure, and CATS for the gas, tied into existing infrastructure, all going to Middlesbrough. So this is an example of a cluster development. And there are other cluster developments. Here's Mako and Erskine, here's Elgin Franklin, this is the Norwegian border, and this is Fulmar. So again, working together to keep things going. Ullage. So this is quite important because this is where you are looking to fill the gap. So you have a facility which has a capacity of 300 million standard cubic feet per day. So that's the capacity. That's your production plateau. As a gas field, that's what happens. And then you get decline, which is what happens in gas fields. Then you tie in satellites to keep the facility as full as you can. So satellite A, satellite B, and then later on you tie in satellite C, which is a tieback field, maybe operated by another partnership. Again, trying to fill the capacity, trying to keep the host facility going, because operating expenditure is shared amongst these facilities to try to keep things going together. Looking at different types of oil and gas play. So you're looking at existing plays here. So you've got field A, field B. This is an untested block in the same play. Okay, slightly lower risk than these two, but still potentially quite useful. Then you got a deeper play, untested locally, again, higher exploration risk, potentially higher reward. A shallower play, you've got a bit of indication of sand in fault block B, maybe more in fault block C, maybe more here. And another untested fault segment, which relies on a different type of trapping mechanism. So these new plays have got higher risk than the traditional play, but they can also have much higher rewards. The technical challenges to ILX. So again, geological risks remain. They may be better understood, but they're not always. So you look at fluid compatibility, so oil, gas, condensate impurities, H2S, wax, etc. How to manage all of that on the host platform. Potential pressure and temperature issues. When is export ullage available? Are the projects going to be delayed until something comes along? And how are you going to develop it? Extended reach well, subsea wells such as these, new normally manned platform. What modifications do you need at the host facility? Can it actually be done? Is there space on the host facility? What's the cost and time schedule? And another really big issue coming up here is the host and platform field life. Some of these North Sea platforms are now getting quite old, 25, 30, maybe coming up to 35, 40 years. They're getting perhaps not in this optimum state, and they might need to be decommissioned relatively quickly. Can you get your infrastructure-led satellite development in time? And what's their physical condition? So next one is looking at the management challenges. Now, the first thing to point out is that ILX is not risk-free. It needs to be stated, but it's not always fully understood. Some people think ILX is a slam dunk. It isn't. The relatively small volumes. If you need a boost to boost your replacement reserves, get media and stock market attention, ILX is not for you. Developing a small subsea tieback in the North Sea or a medium-sized cluster in the Gulf of Mexico versus going out onto, I don't know, Namibia or Argentina, deep offshore there, finding massive things. Well, different things, different companies for different people. And there's exploration management potential. It's got some people who've got big hitter mentalities. So Rahul Dravid versus Ben Stokes, or going back further, Sir Geoffrey Boycott versus Sir Ian Botham, or Lord Botham, I think as he is now. You've got some sexy batters, you've got some steady batters. And ILX is not seen as sexy by some explorationists. How do you allocate your exploration budgets? Again, which department pays for the well? The turf wars within that need to be managed. who does the actual evaluation work? You got development team people, you got exploration team people. How do they interact? Do they have the appropriate skills? Do they have understanding? Do they have attitudes? Who brings it all together? And how does ILX success fit in with overall facility plans? You really need to get people talking, and you need management that can do that effectively. Then challenges within joint ventures. Now, most oil and gas is done in joint ventures. So you've got some people, a license that has several license holders within that have different equity, and you have an operator. Now, the co-ventures might have different priorities. You need alignment, you need resolution. So some co-ventures might wish to sell, you might need to do commercial deals, etc. If the prospect straddles several blocks, you may need to do unitization, quite a complicated legal commercial procedure, which tends to add delay. And if the discovery is held by a joint venture which is different to the host facility joint venture, you need to have a commercial arrangement there. Again, that can be quite difficult if the host facility behaves badly. It may try to hold ILX discovery people to ransom. Governments tend to interfere within that to make sure that doesn't happen, so by effective regulation. But again, all this can lead to delays and needs to be resolved. And governments help to try to resolve that, particularly in the UK CES with the NSTA and in Norway with the NPD, who are both highly effective regulators. So trying to solve the JV challenges, so the government does bash heads together, gives support to try to solve the commercial challenges because the country benefits that the field development takes place. The government doesn't really care who does it as long as they do it competently and safely. Industry trade bodies tend to spur progress. So for example, here, this is from Harbour Energy. This is a looking at capacity of a platform that they have and looking at what the different capacities are and where the capacities might become available. So this is public information they put out there to try to basically get more trade. And they obviously talk to any potential license holders around their facilities about what they can do. The government initiatives such as UK Pilot and government-to-government action to resolve cross-border bodies. For example, the example I had in Armada, the satellites RAV and Galpay were on the Norwegian side of the border, and UK and Norway worked together to try to make this happen. Effective government-to-government cooperation. So sum up, ILX adds a lot of value by using existing oil and gas production export infrastructure. Relatively rapid timescales, smaller volumes can work compared to greenfield areas, and prolongs infrastructure life to add yet more value. But not geological slam dunk. You've still got exploration risk, slower normally, but still remains. It's not seen as sexy by big game explorationists. It's again Jeffrey Boycott versus Ian Botham. Technical challenges within the infrastructure may need to be overcome. JV challenges may need to be overcome as this applies, and governments are keen to encourage solutions to add value, keep mature areas going, keep production going, keep feeding oil and gas into your nation's energy system. So thank you very much. Please like, please subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.